Hi, everybody. I'm Cecily Santiago, a data analytics consultant at the Information Lab in New York City, and I'm here to do a walkthrough of a weekly Alteryx challenge for you. We are going back to challenge number 2. This is a beginner level challenge, so if you're just starting out, this is ideal for you. Let's take a look at the challenge. Okay, so here we are in Alteryx, and I've already downloaded the start file from the Alteryx Weekly Challenge website. And we're going to run this so that we'll populate our browse tools and be able to look at the input and output. Right here in the input, we see that we have one field, and it's a string field that has a short poem surrounded by double quotes. Then delimited by a comma, we have a 3-digit number. Right now, this is in a string format. It's not an integer. And after the 3 digits, we have another comma, and then surrounded by single quotes, we have a date in the format year abbreviation, month name abbreviation, day abbreviation. So let's look at what our output should look like. Clicking on the Browse tool on the output, we see that our output is going to be in this format. Let me bring it up a little and zoom in for you. We have 3 fields. We have the poem without the quotation marks around it, the poem ID, so that's that 3-digit number, and the poem read date in a standard date format of year, month, day. And we can look at the metadata, and we can see here that the poem should be a string, the poem ID should be an integer, and the poem read date should be a date. Okay, let's get started. I'll zoom out a little bit so I have more room on my canvas. The first thing that I'm going to do is split my input data into the 3 fields. So I'm going to do this using the text to columns tool. I have it saved as a favorite, but you can find it in the parse menu or search for it up in the upper right-hand corner. If you want to add that to your favorites and it's not already there, there's a little star here that you can click, and then you can find it easily on your favorites menu in the future. So we'll drag that onto the canvas, and then I'm going to drag the output anchor from our input and drag it to the input anchor of this tool. Now we have the text to columns. We need to choose the column to split. There's only one, and then specify the delimiter. It's already specified as a comma, and that's great because we saw when we inspected these fields that the 3 parts are separated by commas. We will split it to 3 columns, and if there's anything extra, we'll just keep it in the last column and deal with that. Okay, let's hit run. I'm using Control R, or you can also hit run up here and see what we've got. So this tool has kept the initial field, field 1, intact, and then added 3 new fields, 1, 2, 3, each with their parts. We're looking pretty good so far, but there's a couple things wrong here. First of all, we still have the double quotes surrounding the poem, so we need to get rid of that. And then we have the single quotes surrounding the date, and it's still not a date as the data type, it's still a string. Additionally, the poem ID is also still a string. We can see that if we go into the metadata and look right here. So let's start cleaning that up. I'm going to start by removing the double quotes around the poem. So I'll use a formula tool and drag that onto the canvas here, and we can see it automatically connected. And we're going to be working with column 1. We're just going to replace the contents of column 1 with the result of this formula instead of creating a new column. So I'm going to use a string function called replace. You can find your list of functions by clicking on this FX button, and we have replace right here. So that's easy enough. You can, oops, that's replace character though, and we just want replace. We'll do replace. So now we specify the string that we'll be replacing. In this case, the string is whatever is in our column labeled 1. So we type 1 with square brackets around it to specify that column. And then our target, that means what is the string that we want to replace. We will be replacing the double quotation mark. But to specify that that's the substring we're looking for, we need to surround it by single quotes. And then we're going to replace it with an empty string to just delete those essentially. So I will put single quotes with nothing in between to represent the empty string. Our data type will be vString. We're happy with that. Let's hit run and see what happens. Now, when we click on the output anchor of this tool, we see that field 1 now has just the text of the poem without the quotes around it. Good job. Okay, the next thing I want to do is deal with these dates. So we're going to get rid of those single quotes and change it into a standard date format and date data type all at once. We are going to use the date time tool. So I found this by going up here and typing date into the search bar. You can also find this in the parse menu, and whichever way you find it, you can just grab it and drag it onto your canvas. So we want to convert, let's look at the interface here. We need to select the format to convert, and we want to convert a string into a date time format. Okay, that's already selected. We're all set up. Now we have select the string field to convert, specify the new column name, and specify your date time language. We are going to keep the date time language to English. The new column name, this was called, I believe, poem underscore red date in our output. So we'll go ahead and put that in now. And the string that we're converting is going to be this field named 3. Now there's a lot of formats here, and if it matches one of those, we can go ahead and select it, but ours doesn't match any of these exactly. We are going to need to specify a custom format. And let's just double check the output. We can see that 01 is the year and 10 is the year. So this is in the format, oh, let's look at our input. Just clicking right on that input anchor. Day dash month abbreviation dash shortened year, surrounded by single quotes. So I'm going to put those single quotes in to the format of the incoming field. We are typing right down here. Single quote, and then this is day, so you can represent that by lowercase d, dash. The month name abbreviation we represent with the string MON. So we've got that, and then dash the shortened year is just YY for year, or we could do lowercase. And then we have that closing single quote. So this would take something of, it shows us an example here, so we can check that this is doing what we'd like. We can see it will take something, oops, there we go. It will take something of this format and output it in this format. So that's what we want. That looks good. Let's run it. I'm hitting Control R to run. And we've got the poem read date now. So we're getting our things into the right format. And if we look at the metadata, we even have poem read date is a date, and our string is a string, but this field 2, that's what we want to be our poem ID, and that should be an integer. And not to mention, we still have field 1, and we have this 3, which we don't need now that we have the poem read date field, so we have a bit of cleaning up to do. Here we're going to use the select tool, which can be found in your preparation palette up here at the top, and we'll just drag that onto the canvas. And we're going to look at the input here. I'm going to bring it back to data. We're going to deselect the columns that we don't need anymore. So we can deselect field 1, that's the field _1, and deselect 3. And then we can rename this column 1 to be poem, and that's still a V string, so that's good. Column 2, that's our poem ID. Poem _ID is what they have in their output. And we can change the type here, right here. Click that drop down and change it to an int 16. And then we've got poem read date. That's a date. We're happy with that. Again, hit run. And now we're going to add a browse tool. One way to find the browse tool is, let's see, I have it on my favorites. It's in the in-out palette as well, and you can drag it down. But a handy shortcut, let me delete that to show you the shortcut, is to hit with the tool where you want the browse tool connected selected. You can hit Control and B. Oops. Control Shift B, and that will add the browse tool. Again, that's Control Shift B, and that brings the browse tool on for you. Hit run and take a look. Here are our results: poem, poem ID, and poem read date. And if we go to our output, the results are exactly the same. So we have successfully solved this challenge. And let's just double check if we go to the metadata, vstring, int, and date. And here we have vstring, int, and date. So we are happy. Great job. Thanks for following along, and keep watching our videos for more Alteryx Weekly Challenge solutions.